And we have a question. It's from Khalid for Connor. It says, Connor, were you able to sense other types easily through their energy fields or aura? And again, if anyone else wants to answer it as well, but it was directed towards Connor. You know, are you able to sense when you're around other people what kind of career type they are, what their energy field is, or what their aura is?
That's a great question. At this point in my experiment, and to me it's a lifelong experiment, as you've heard from all of us, and I'm sure all the other types would say, life is an unfolding, ever-learning journey, at least when we're engaged and open and excited. It's taken me a long time, and at this point, most of the time I can identify the other types. Probably the easiest identification in our collective language would be the auric, the energy field. And I wouldn't say that I'm 100% spot on. And I say that because sometimes when an individual is so conditioned that they're not at all who they really are, it can be as though you're watching a movie of shape-shifting, or they're this way one moment and this way another moment. So some of that is contingent on the coherence of other people and in relative to the consciousness and frequency they live at. I firmly am convinced that we're all living our design from the moment we're born. It's already there. It's as though us finally realizing we don't wake up in the morning and tell our lungs to breathe and our heart to beat. The life is expressing itself through us, whether or not we're conscious of it. And it's just a matter of the more conscious we become of how life is designed to move through this beautiful instrument we've been given, then there's a coherence, an inner and outer coherence. As I think it was Emma, or maybe we've all spoken to it, the more clear our radio signal is, the more easily it is for someone else to identify, oh, that's station XYZ. So yes, I feel perhaps we as a type may at some point have more proficiency at recognizing the other types. And that to me would be only because we are open without definition. So we don't have that defined, limited filter through which the world is moving. However, as the exploration into the deeper aspects of design, which was brought up in a question and is unique to us as evaluators, reflectors, is that if you were to talk to any of us, even though all our centers, our functions are open, you would at some point begin to hear the dormant trait activations as the message or the information comes through. And it's been going on this whole panel meeting. The way we've each expressed our response to your questions, Karen, is part of the filter, if you will, that evaluators have, because different aspects of our dormant gates, whether unconscious or conscious, are being activated, and so you're hearing that. So at a fundamental, what Ra called the surface level, not superficial, but surface strategy, authority, decision making, I really feel that most types over the long haul can begin to sense out who the other types are. And I certainly use that as a mechanism when I go out in public and I'm in, dipping into a group. I'm checking out who's what. because of my experience in the interaction. And part of that is I know more how to communicate with people, you know, just by passing on information, asking yes or no questions, inviting, you know, these things. As Tina was saying earlier, it's important for us to learn the other types as well, because that's really how we're going to get along in the world.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, beautifully done, Connor. Thank you. Wonderful. And here's a really interesting question from Susan. And I'll start back with Emma. If you want to start us off with this, and then I'll take a look at. We also want to take a look at the decision-making strategy that Connor talked about as well. But Susan asks, in this time of COVID-19, what are you picking up? Is it significantly different for you during this time? So kind of taking a look at sort of the time that we're in and kind of tapping into what your wisdoming is at this time and what you potentially see.
Well, I'll speak to my personal experience briefly. When I saw this question, I thought Brad needs to answer that because he's spoken about that in our group really well. My personal experience was I didn't understand what the heck, well, like people just lost their minds. There was so much I could feel in my system, so much fear that other people had, like paranoid fear, not based on any actual reality or fact. And it's changed now. People have gotten used to things a little bit. And I personally pull back. Like I don't do any social media. I don't listen to any news because I pick up all that distortion and I know it's not good for my system. So I make choices to limit my exposure to things. So I might not be as on the button as everybody else from a mental standpoint. But yeah, when it first happened, it at least came to North America and things started shutting down and people started stockpiling toilet paper for a respiratory illness. Like insane. But I could also, because I had done enough deconditioning and could differentiate between that being other people's crazy and not my crazy, this has actually been one of the most easy, peaceful periods of my life. Because I'm not caught up in any of it. I see that it's craziness. And I can see that it has to do with people's fears, like the amount of craziness that each person individually is bringing has to do with their level of healthiness and conditioning. The more conditioned a person is, the more this has worked them up. So this is just a trigger to try and wake people up on one level. On another level, it is an illness and people die and there's all that. But from a higher plane, this is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's highlighting who's healthy and who's not on an energetic, psychic level, not just a physical level.
Wow. Very profound. Thank you, Emma. And with that also, I'd love to hear from Brad too.
Well, it's kind of like Karen, don't get me started. But this is something that the bulk of the population on the planet does not understand. And what you want to look at, and I'm sure everybody has, but you really want to look at the extraordinary times that we are in, because this is something that has shut down just about the entire world. Now, there are places where Tina is in Taiwan, where they're just continuing to operate as normal, going to school, working, etc. In fact, on our last call with the five of us, Tina, was all the rest of us are kind of isolating, but not, particularly here in Canada. We're still moving around, but we're doing what the rest of the world's doing. Tina said she'd really like to have some time off. They're still going to work. Point is that we are in a reset here. And I listen to, particularly on BG5 and with other groups, I hear people saying this is really interesting times. You have no idea. This is a reset. This is a reset that, in Human Design BG5, We talk about the shift and change coming in 2027. We've already been in that shift and change for a number of years. We've been waiting. I've been waiting for something to unfold. Did I know it was going to look like this? No, but it's a reset, and it's about really waking up to the fact that everything that you have been taught about this world, in my favorite language, is inside out, upside down, and backwards. And there's going to be, this is just the start. There's going to be a whole bunch of things that are going to come up, and you as an individual have choices to make. You have choices whether you're going to move into fear. You have choices whether you're going to move into peace. You have choices as to how things are going to unfold for you. We know that we're moving out of the cross of planning. That's already started. This isn't, the 2027 isn't going to be a specific date where there's a line drawn and we just step over the line. We've been in it for a very long time, and we've seen some things happen, but now it's happening in a big way. The planet, the people on the planet are starting to wake up, but there's far, far, far too many who are still asleep. And we really have to wake up to the fact that we are moving into individualism. And what does that look like for you? Not for your husband, your wife, your children, your grandparents, your parents, your neighbor, your boss. What does it look like for you? And you really got to step into that and start to take a look. So for me, I've been waiting for something like this for a very long time. It is now showing up. And like Emma, I'm absolutely at peace with it. And the people that are around me that can hear me talk about that, I'm absolutely at peace with what's going on. For most of them, they're horrified. They go, what? How can you be at peace? Things are shifting and changing. And I say, yes, they are, and it's about time, because this world is not what we believe it is. And this world is about to change. It's in change. It's going to continue to change. And so when we talk about getting back to normal, we're not going back to normal. And we talk about new normal, we're not going back to new normal. It might be normal for a day, a week, a month, a year, but there's going to be continued changes, and that continued change is all about each and every one of us having the opportunity to wake up and really start to pay attention. Because you see, I'm not going to go down here very long, but there's all kind of stuff out there about conspiracy theories. And there's people who talk about that. Well, the conspiracy theories don't exist. They're right there in front of you. We choose not to look at them. We choose to ignore them, not pay attention to them, or we choose to buy into them and say there's a conspiracy theory. The world is changing. And I've seen that for a very long time. And we all want to be aware from an individual standpoint that I have some choices to make. And you're going to have more choices to make down the road. And they're all about choices for you.
Yeah.
So I could go on forever, but I won't.
Beautifully said, Brad. And Lisa is saying, you know, the distorted fear is so amplified for me, and I'm in New York. I've been walking among the fear and just observing without my own fear. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lisa. And how is it for you, Tina?
For me, the daily life is still daily life. So because I heard from everywhere from the world, and my friends in New Zealand, they stay at home with their family and do the exercise every day. And I found out like Brad, Connor, Emma, and Karanila, they remain like peacefully. And for me, I still have to work, so that's ridiculous. But in another way is I feel very safe and stay calm in my own country and remain the daily life. Everything is okay. Kids can go to school and I can like eat whatever I want to eat, and I can buy the masks. So quite peaceful and looking forward to what's going on in the probably next year or in the future. So I think I have similar feeling with all of you, but not the same way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Oops, I forgot to put your chart up. Yeah, thank you.
And my son is here to say hello to
Oh,
everyone.
hi.
Hi.
Oh.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And we were talking about children earlier, and I was just thinking, what a gift it is to be able to raise your children in knowing this information so that they can start to live correctly, from a very young age. Just imagining for all of us what it would have been like if our parents had known this information, if we were raised with this information, if that you could really own your uniqueness as an evaluator from a very young age. What a different world it would be, and hopefully that's what we're moving towards as well. Is a lot of you have said how important it is just to be yourself. So thank you. Oh, great seeing your son, Tina. Thank you. And how about for you, Carolina?
For me, I have a short story. At the end of January, I was thinking to myself that if builder, comes to me for advice and I gave him back his strategy and authority, and next time he comes and says, look, I have information from my sacral, keeps telling me that I need to quit my job and do nothing for some time. How am I supposed to do it? How am I going to pay my bills? I need to work, I need to work, I need to work. And I was just thinking, in a current economical situation, it is really difficult for people to trust their authority if the world is this crazy. And I was just thinking to myself, it's impossible for economy to change. And 2 weeks later, I look and somehow everything stopped, just like, wow. And I just keep thinking to myself, in a way, how wrong I was, and in a way, how unexpected it was for all of us to see such a big and huge changes all over the world. And suddenly we are in a completely different place. On a personal level, I do enjoy this time. I have more time for myself. I am 6'2", so I can read more and be with myself more. So for me, it is perfect. I just really hope that for the future, we will come together as totality stronger, and we will find better, more integral solutions for our economy and for ourselves.